Hi, welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. I'm DV LeBron. Today's very special guest is Miss Lisa Healy. She is running for Midlothian ISD School Board, Place 1. How you doing, ma'am?
I am fantastic, and I'm so excited to be here, TV. I never thought the day would come that I would be on the Ellis Talker Show. So
I never
thank you.
thought that would happen, but hey, it is you've decided to run for office. Now, if you guys have seen the meetings, if you watch any one of the meetings, pull up any meeting for MISD, and there's usually one person that's up there and one person who talks, and that would be Lisa Healy. She is there. She is normally watching the board, what they're doing and what's going on with MISD. Can you tell people more about you?
Sure. So I am a small business owner, and I'm a former attorney. I went to law school. I moved to Midlothian a little over 3 years ago. And as soon as I got here, I felt like I was home. I think I always had a little bit of Texas in my heart. Also, moving to Midlothian, it's extremely welcoming. To new people. And I found a great group of people. I also got extremely involved with going to the school board meetings. As you had mentioned, I've been attending them for years now. I've rarely missed one unless I was deathly ill or my daughter had graduated and we took a vacation. I really haven't missed any of the school board meetings. I also joined some MISD committees, so I could also be participatory that way.
You're throwing your hat in the ring. What inspired that?
Well, I think we're at a great time here in Midlothian. We have a brand new superintendent. He is going to be fantastic for our district. And I think having spent two budget cycles watching the process, the school, that process take place, and then also having had my daughter in the district for 2 years, doing the and graduating in 2022, I really felt like I had had enough knowledge and experience with the district that I could bring some really great experience to the school board. I really think that our students should have the best education, that our teachers should have the greatest support in the classroom, and we should be the most fiscally responsible school district in Texas.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to talk fiscal because there is some issues that arose at the last budget workshop, but it it is a difficult thing to put your name in the ring. And I tell every candidate that comes on, thank you for wanting to serve your community because it is not easy, this rough and tumble thing that politics in Ellis County. So what what would you like to see if you were elected to the school board? What would be your priorities that you would like to happen if you were elected?
As I mentioned, I really would like to see our students have the best education in Texas. Right now, we're a good school district and we are the best school district in Ellis County. But Texas is a big state. And if you look at our academic peers, they are their students have higher test scores than ours. And we're really average. But also, in addition to having higher test scores, their investment in their students is at a lower amount than ours. So we really need to make some bold moves and do things differently, see how they are doing it, and bring that to Midlothian. So that's one of the things. I think another issue facing us is our growth, and we want to be sure that we manage that growth. That growth is that we address that growth strategically. We have a long-term strategic plan to manage that growth, and also keeping those educational values that we hold so dear here in Midlothian, and really manage the burden we put on the taxpayers.
Right.
They shouldn't be burdened with all the growth. We should figure out different ways to achieve that and satisfy that growth.
And growth is here. Growth is here. There are,
It is.
even though some of the permits and stuff have slowed down, it is still, there's still, if you look at Warner Grove area, you still got a bunch of houses that are going to go up and a bunch of students that'll come out of that. Where would you like to see the school district in 5 years if you were elected?
I would like to see our school district in 5 years be the lead district in Texas. I would like other districts to look to us to figure out how to manage their issues they are facing. I want to produce students that have wonderful prosperous lives, however they choose to live them, whether it be going off to college and having tremendous careers post college or entering into a trade. I want our students to leave here and be the most prepared for the 21st century and for decades to come. And I want them to come back to Midlothian and say, I came from here and I want to give back to Midlothian and keep us growing.
Yeah, yeah, that is definitely nice. I was just talking to somebody who's running in Waxahachie who did that. You know, they were homegrown and went out and did big things and came back, sort of like John Garrett in the Texas Theater. There's been those that have returned back. It's nice to see that. It'd be nice to see it in town. Lisa, I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on transparency? You know, what do you how transparent do you think a board should be to the people of Midlothian?
I think, there are always going to be areas and topics that have confidentiality. But I do believe if there are issues, concerns, the school district must face them head on and be transparent. If there's a problem, let's say there is a problem and address it and give our plan forward. Um, as for the board, we have to work alongside the school district, but we have to find areas where we can be the most transparent. And one of those areas, I think, is really looking at our student outcomes. And as a board, what we should try to do is encourage the district to present to the board and to the parents the students' performance and test scores, and do it in a clean, digestible format where we as the board can ask probing questions, ask to see the performance year over year. Typically, how it's presented, it's just where you're at in that moment, and there's really no context, so you don't really know how they're doing. So I think that's really important. That's an extremely important place for transparency, and I think we can do it. I don't think it's a hard ask. It's just not how it's always been done, and that again goes to taking bold steps. That would be a bold step. Let's do things differently, not as they have always been done before.
Education has been the big talk in this country since COVID. There's been questions of, parents got more involved during the pandemic, and they saw some things, and there's been positive and negative changes to all that. But the question is, what is the proper role of the school board in the lives of the people of Midlothian and the parents and the kids? What is the proper role?
Our role, our main priority is having the greatest, strongest student outcomes. That is really our main role. The budget is an important factor that plays into the outcomes. So everything we look at, that should be the goal. How do we achieve the best outcomes for our students? And how do we do that in a fiscally responsible way where we're not burdening the taxpayers, where we're trying to lower the taxpayers' taxes?
Right. And since you mentioned that, let's go into it. Taxes, the biggest part for people that don't know, the biggest part of your tax bill on your home is the school taxes. They're the biggest chunk,
Yes.
followed by the city, followed by the county. So
For
when you
everyone, whether you have a student in the school district or not.
Correct. And so what the school does during budget time and tax time really affects you. So Lisa, I had a question for you concerning that.
Yes.
I've seen these conversations. I've had them on the last few years about budgets and taxes and the tax rate and no new revenue. There's been so many things thrown around in taxes. If Lisa Healy was elected to the board, where would she stand on property taxes?
I would work very hard, and I won't when I'm elected, I will not have the opportunity to have participated in building the budget, which the tax rate is based on, or how we come to our tax rate. I will have to vote on it, approve it, but I'm not participatory other than being in the audience. Um, the tax rate with school districts is a little different than for example, for the city or the county. we are dictated, our tax rate is somewhat dictated by the state government, by legislation. They tell us pretty much what our tax rate should be, and they've worked hard to try to lower it for us. Um, so where we can really impact that tax rate and even bring it lower if we want to, is to look at our budget and what our expenditures are. And I don't know if you saw the first budget workshop, but in that budget workshop, we are in a deficit, unfortunately, with
I was
our
going to go into
taxes.
that. Yeah.
It's across Texas. It's not just us. But they were able to find over $1 million towards the end of our fiscal year in savings. If we had taken that same cost-cutting savings approach at the beginning of the year, who's to say how different the budget could look? And that's really what I would like to be able to bring to the school board. And I think my experience as a small business owner, having the legal experience, I'm pretty tenacious. I am very goal oriented and solution oriented. And I hope to bring that to the school district for next year's budget planning. But I think it was very interesting to see this year's budget planning. I think under the direction of Dr. Belding, he's given very clear direction to the administration and to the schools that we have to find the money, we have to find savings. And I think heading into this year's budget with that frame of reference is actually going to turn out to be a very good thing for the school district.
So I remember on the last budget, and we're going to get into teachers, but I just kind of wanted to touch on it. On the last budget, there wasn't it was going to require 1.2 million, I think it was, in order to give teachers a pay raise, and they couldn't find a 1.2 million, and
Yeah.
so now we fast forward to now, and we're $6 million in the whole, and it's a very serious problem, and
Yes.
you find 1.5 million. There's stuff to look at. I'm not saying that there none of this is nefarious, but there are
Yeah.
things that have to be looked at there. With these, you're not going to build this budget, but if you are elected, that would be you voting on that.
Mhm.
What cuts, what maneuvers are acceptable to you?
Any cuts and savings should be as far away from the classroom, the students, and the teachers. So we need to have the integrity in our budget for teachers. We have to make teachers a priority. We have to find a way to give them a raise. No ands, ifs, or buts. We are below the state average for teacher salaries. We are below the average for our academic peers in teacher salaries. We have tremendous teachers in our school district, from the English teachers to our special education teachers to our those individuals who are support staff in the classrooms. We have a great staff and they're so dedicated. We have to make them a priority, and we have to be sure that we are paying them a competitive salary. We cannot lose any more of these phenomenal teachers in our district.
That's one thing that I hear mentioned, definitely, like one of the things when it comes to teaching is the substitute teacher pay. I mean, you need substitutes. It's got to have, unfortunately, that's kind of where the market is now. You need substitutes, and how you pay them, and that all kind of goes into all of that. But when it comes to the budget, because I really want to cover teachers a little bit more,
Yes.
but when it comes to the budget, one of the things of the school board is to to hold accountability. So you're the representative of the people to the board, the parents,
Yes.
the parents. You're the representative of the people to the staff of MISD. So what a tendency may be that and you hire these people. Mr. Belding, a great guy, great hire.
Yes.
You hire these people. They are the professionals at this, and this is what they do every day. But as a board, you may have to hold them accountable. Are you prepared to do that?
I think if we have the right policies in place and we're giving them the right tools, we'll be able to do that. They'll be able to do their job. There is one issue that we do face here in Midlothian, and it's not just here in Midlothian, it's across a lot of school districts in Texas. We fund with taxpayer money a liberal lobbying group, and they are setting policy here in Midlothian that is not in alignment with our values. And I think it's really important that we look at them. For example, they lobbied against legislation that would have prevented boys from using girls' facilities in the schools. We we also use taxpayer money to allow them to lobby against the school funding budget this year, which would have provided an additional $9 million. We would have been in the black if we had that $9 million. But they lobbied against it because that funding had ESAs in it. I don't think it's responsible for us as a board to allow an organization like that, which our taxpayers are paying, to set policies and impact us in such a way that's not Midlothian.
Yeah.
So that is something I would work towards. And yes, accountability is very important. But I think if we have the right policy in place and we have the right people in place, I, I don't I don't know if we'll have to worry so much about that.
Right. Now, the one of the things that we talked about just now was about the teachers. You have a mass exodus of teachers out of the teaching field, and when they're asked, and I've seen some of the polling and stuff that they've done on this. When asked, it wasn't necessarily the salary, although that definitely helps when you got to feed your family,
Mhm,
but it was the other things. It
mhm.
was all the other things that go with teaching. If you're elected to the board, what are some of the things that you'd like to see to help improve teacher retention?
Yes, I think again, it's not just the salary, it's also that support in the classroom and giving them the best tools to educate our students. It will help both the teachers and our students if we provide the top of the line, top of the class curriculum and really focus on that core curriculum and not worry about all the other ancillary stuff. I moved here to ensure my daughter would be in a classroom, and I started going to school board meetings. And I was startled to see some of the policies starting to take root here in Midlothian that were in the state I left. And I want to make sure that we're not I saw what happened when you took your focus away from education and that core curriculum to indoctrination, and that does not produce the best outcomes for our students. So I think if the teachers are able to have the tools that are easy to use, that are best in class, they'll be able to teach our students. And then also, I think there'll be a new energy in the district and the students will want to come to school. I mean, that's a challenge getting the students to come to school.
No. One of the things the teachers talk about often, and you know what, just real quick before I move on this, one of the things that were mentioned in the budget workshop was, and it has a lot to do. The students come into class, that's how the school gets their money. So
Yes,
there was I believe we're holding at about 95% is what they
yes,
said roughly on our attendance, and the amount of kids that we were slated to receive versus what we received, and that affected our weighted average daily allowance for children. And I know
yes,
those are weed stuff, but
yes.
it affects you. It
Right.
affects you folks, because if the kids are not in school, the schools are not getting that money, and it's just kind of snowballs from there. But I know you
Yes.
saw that during that budget workshop.
So that's kind of twofold. The ADA, which is the attendance rate,
Mhm.
um, we have to predict that at the beginning of the budget process. So we've kind of been predicting a little bit higher than what's been actually happening. So say we've used 96% attendance rate and you get paid on that rate, but we've been more around that 94%. So I think if we, were focused and said, okay, let's stick with this 94%, this is the money we're getting, and then allocate it appropriately and really be conservative and sharpen those pencils to make sure that every expenditure is the best expenditure that is going to lead to higher outcomes for our students. The other thing was, yes, we did overestimate our growth. So we built the budget assuming we were going to have more students than actually happened. Fortunately, Dr. Belding really took a long look at our growth going into next year. And in the past, they've been using, like, I think last year they used probably like 5% growth. I think it was pretty high. This year they've kind of landed on 1.5%. So I think that's going to help us a lot too. And again, I think it'll be good because in the past budgets that I've watched and observed, they've really focused mainly on the revenue. And yes, money coming in is really important, but it's kind of like they have the money coming in, they look at that revenue and they say, okay, that's our budget. And then they just like bucket everything. I think now we're really going to have to take a sharper look at all of those expenditures and make sure that they are the right expenditures for our teachers, our staff, and our students.
Yeah. Now, it's those are things that, I mean, all these little things, and I learned that from watching the budgets. I know you have. There's so many things that affect school funding. It is complicated. There's no doubt
It is.
about it. But
It is.
there are things that you can do, like, that 1.5. That's a very conservative rate. And I heard the discussions on that, and it's all preliminary, but that
Yes.
was pretty good. Now, going back to what I was saying on that the teacher thing, one of the big issues affecting the district is discipline. A lot of teachers complain, and a lot of staff complain that discipline, and a lot of parents complain that discipline is a major issue. Um, and it's not just MISD.
Yeah.
It's in
It's
every almost
nationwide.
it's
Discipline
nationwide.
is nationwide.
Discipline is an issue. So, as a board member, what would you like to see the district do about this discipline issue?
Well, I definitely think we have to, as I said again, like have these policies that are appropriate for Midlothian and that align with our values. Like we have a great community here and we have a very strong tax base. I think we can deal with the discipline issues that as long as we face them head on and we're honest about them. I'm not saying people aren't being honest about them, but I think that's where we are at in this time uh, in our country. I want to be sure that we're funding the right things that allow for as I said, the teachers being supported in the classroom, that the expectation for everyone in the district is we have set expectations. And I think that will help with discipline. And those expectations should be district wide. Each school should not have different expectations. I think we need to really have standards across the district. And I think we have them, but again, to really practice them and have them in place will be a game changer for us.
One of the things affecting our school district is that you have kids in the lower socioeconomic strata, that come from that background, and their scores are lower, or much lower in some cases, on math and reading than their peers. And you have that learning loss too from COVID, and we're kind of, we're years into that, but that's improved from what I've been told. But you have that disparity there, and you have the disparity in special education, and we're going to talk about that. What are your thoughts on how the differences there, and what would you like the school district to do about improving the scores of the kids that are socially economic disadvantaged, etc.?
Again, I think if we have best in class curriculum, it'll benefit all students. If we're supporting our teachers the way we can, if we are, we, as I, again, we have so many resources in Midlothian. It's such a great community. I think if we can help support parents, finding ways to engage parents more, to help them with homework and helping their students flourish. But I don't think that should be a hindrance for us. I look at those situations as like opportunities. What is the opportunity for us? And I want to make sure that we are providing all the opportunities for all our students, um, for those opportunities in the future. And we have to make sure we're not missing any of those opportunities today.
Bullying is talked about often online. You've had parents come on and said, hey, my kid's being bullied here and it's just really bad, and you'll get like 10 parents chime in, yeah, my kid had it pretty bad here and this and that, and then you'll see those comments and they're disheartening. I did talk with the superintendent, Dr. Belding, about it, and he did talk extensively about bullying. Is there something that you would like to see that the board could do when addressing bullying?
I think, again, like, one of our jobs is really to support the superintendent. And I think he has a pretty good handle on how best to approach bullying in the school district. And I think, again, I, I really feel like having the standards and the appropriate policies in place and setting the proper expectations will help us with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what about Lisa? You might be in this situation if you're elected to board. Lisa, my kid got beat up. It was bad. They've been getting beat up every single day. Lisa, can you help me? What do you do there?
I would say we are going to work really hard to get you the right support for this situation. And I would then help coordinate with the district with the proper channels to shepherd that. But I would stay involved. I'd want to shepherd that. I'd want to make sure I'm getting reports back on how that's being handled. But if we have the proper policies, again, if we're being transparent and honest and handling every situation, appropriately, these things should be resolved, and they shouldn't be issues for us.
Special education, something that's near and dear to my heart as a special needs pop. I've been through that system. I've been an advocate. I've had to hire attorneys. It can be the special education, just in general, as a special education parent, it could be quite daunting. Not only are you dealing with your child not quite learning, like the rest, and going through all the stuff that they have to deal with internally with that and everything, that all the manifestations and everything, you see that, but you also have to fight for services to get them the proper services. No school is immune to that because funding is never right for special education. So what are your thoughts on special education? What would you like to see done? And if you're a board member, will you commit to staying on top of special education and making it a priority?
So special education is near and dear to me as well. I grew up with a disability, and so I was a special student in my schools growing up. And I think we have to look at that, give all of those students all the opportunities we would give any other student. And also ensuring those teachers, we have great sped teachers in our district. We have great uh, classroom support as well. And I think we have to make sure that we're doing that and maintaining that. But also, maybe we need to elevate our special ed kids a little bit too. Through the budget process, what I would like to see is, can we look at what that funding looks like for those kids and what those expenditures are? Because right now, that's not what, as an outsider sitting in the audience, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen them kind of pull out those buckets, because those special education students, I believe they get different funding
Yeah.
than the regular students. So we should be really looking at what is that funding for that student population and align it with the expenditures that are required for those students. But I'd love to see them elevated too, maybe honoring them and giving them a highlight more than, not just at graduation,
Yeah.
just through their, but I spoke with a parent and she was telling me we are doing great things at Midlothian for our special ed kids, because she was telling me that he like is ready to go to school on a Saturday. He does not like vacation. He just loves going to school. And that is great to hear. And he's in the high school. He's at Heritage. And it was just so great to hear that he was so engaged and how much he loved it. And I want all of our students. And again, like we have to give a competitive salary. We have to support our teachers, not just the special education teachers, but all the great teachers we have in Midlothian.
Now the other thing that is, it's getting kids prepared for the outside world. And one of the greatest things to get kids prepared for the outside world is things like CTE, where they learn a trade or a valuable work skill that they can use outside, that they can do quite well. Because if a kid comes out, the kid comes out of high school, they got their high school diploma and they got an AA and they can weld. I mean, you've set this kid up quite a bit. A welding job will start you, in the 50s out of high school, and so and I know that there's inflation, folks. I get it, but out of high school making 50, I didn't even come close to
I
that.
know.
So there is good things with CTE. I'm a big supporter of it, but I want to know your thoughts on CTE, and would you like to see it expanded?
So I do believe that we already have set up a beginning with the mile. Um, do what I would like to see us do again with these bold ideas. There are school districts in Texas that will build buildings with revenue, and they do not take out massive debt to build these facilities. I would love for us to explore, especially since Midlothian is growing not just by families and homes, but we're growing economically and from a business perspective. I would love for us to see like how we can engage that part of Midlothian with our schools and in supporting CTE. Again, let's try doing something different, something we haven't done before. Also, looking for opportunities. Again, Mike Rowe has an incredible scholarship program that he does for the trades, because he was not one for academics. And we should see what we can do with Mike Rowe's organization, his foundation here in Midlothian. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's like turning on a light switch. It's going to be a lot of hard work. But again, I think we have the grit here in Midlothian to do it.
Yeah.
That's what makes me excited and passionate. And I just see such great things because we are so incredibly blessed that I want us to achieve that.
Yeah, that is, we are. Now, the last thing I'll talk to you before I shut up and give you the mic is is unfortunately, our new reality is that schools are targets. They have become targets in ever since Columbine and on forward. There's been massacres of children. It's nationwide. There's just some horrible, evil stuff that has happened. Texas did something. They went ahead and made it so that you had to have a police officer or resource officer in every single school that you have. Of course, they didn't fund it very well, but they did that. They did that. So there are things that I saw, like recently, I ran into an AI program that can be uploaded to the camera system. It doesn't require any special hardware or anything special, and it could literally tell if somebody's got a gun around the school. If the camera catches it and there's a weapon, the AI will trace it. Now, I could understand there could be some civil liberty things, but as far as the school on the school grounds, you would know immediately if somebody had a weapon. Things like that, and the FBI has workshops. Is there anything like you'd like to see it, and what are your thoughts on that issue in general?
Well, I have to say, and I've said it multiple times, how blessed we are here in Midlothian. While the legislature really did not fund the requirements for security and safety in our schools and the requirement of having an SRO at every campus. We are able to do that here in Midlothian by partnering with the city. We use Midlothian police officers as our SROs. So during the school year, they are dedicated to the campuses. And then in the summer, they will go ahead and work for the city. But the city incurs some of the budget to pay for them and to all the cars and the equipment and everything. So we have a great relationship with the city. I think there are some more cross-pollination and partnering with the city we could do. But we've been very blessed. So we already have those officers. I think, again, having community involvement, bringing the idea of the AI forward and having some investigation done, research done on those type of opportunities. Like, no idea, like, you never know where a great idea is going to come from. And we have to keep our eyes and ears open for those ideas. And that is something I will bring to the school board as well.
Well, unfortunately, I could have you on all night and ask questions, but I try to bring this show down to 30 minutes. I try. So I wanted to go ahead and give you the mic and allow you to speak directly to the people of Midlothian.
Great. Well, it would be a high point in my life to be elected to be a school board trustee and to really shape the future of our students while keeping our taxes low. That would be so phenomenal for me. And I really hope that I really believe my experience as a small business owner, as an attorney, having had a daughter in the district, my commitment to the district by attending meetings for years really sets me up to be the best representation for the community. And it would be an honor to have your vote. So please go out and vote. If anything, go out and vote Lisa Healy for place 1 for Midlothian ISD School Board.
I'm sorry about that technology, but I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking to the parents of Midlothian. These elections are very important, folks. Get out there and vote. This is about your kids and how they are educated and what you end up paying in your mortgage. I mean, it affects you all the way around. So the board is much more important than most people give it credit for. Again, thank you so much, Lisa, for wanting to serve your community. Can you stick around real quick after the show?
And thank you, DV, for doing this for all of the community. You really dedicate so much of yourself to this. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your service you've given to the country. So I feel really honored and blessed that you were one of the first people I met when I moved here to Texas. So thank you.
Thank you. That was nice. I appreciate it. You take care.
You too.